One of the people running for president is racist.
Senator Warren, I wanted to talk about this enthusiasm gap in Gen Z and millennials for Joe Biden. There's this enthusiasm gap, and yet Gen Z and millennials have been leading the conversation this year and following the leaders who've been doing the work for years and years in the racial justice space, following them to the streets, demonstrating for racial equality. So what you just laid out for me connected the dots there, where voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris this year is the first step to racial equality.
You're so right on this. And understand, this is not a year where you say, gosh, I can barely tell the difference between the two people who are running for president. Hello? One of the people running for president is racist and has made that clear. Wants to stir up as much racial hatred in this country as possible. Now, also wants to stir up as much anti-Muslim hatred as he can in this country, anti-woman. Let's just keep filling in the pieces, anti-immigrant. But one has made it clear that if he can stir more hate and division, he thinks that's his path to victory. And it's not just his rhetoric. His rhetoric is horrible. It's horrible. But it's also what he actually does. Very small example of that. You may remember after Ferguson that President Obama said, we're going to get the Justice Department to go out and look at these police departments that have serious problems and where there's been way too much racially charged violence in these police departments. And that's what the Justice Department did starting under President Obama. And they started working with different communities, different cities, found some real problems. And they hammered out agreements with those cities on changes that those cities would make to make policing safer for everyone, to reduce violence by the police. Good agreements that they were hammering out. Some were already finished, some were in midstream when Donald Trump came in. One of the first things the Trump administration did was to go back and say, we're not doing those agreements. They stopped all the ones that were in progress and then said to the ones where agreements had already been reached, police departments were in the middle of making changes, said, you don't have to do that. We don't care if you do that or not. And I picked that as an example, probably didn't make any headlines, but it's a concrete example of how having a president who is trying to stir up as much racial tension, as much hatred, as much division in this country as possible, hurts us in a very practical way every single day. Joe Biden is going to put a stop to that. Joe Biden is fundamentally a decent man who wants to see an America where everybody has opportunity, where everybody has a chance to thrive. So racial equality that you took to the streets for just a month or two ago, it's on the ballot on November 3rd. We have a chance to get rid of Donald Trump. We have a chance to get rid of the Republican senators that supported him through this, the people who enabled him. We have a chance to get rid of the Republican representatives who helped him. We have a chance to make real change. And that happens when we vote.
Get registered to vote, get your mail-in ballot, and make a voting plan.